everyone, and welcome to All Hands on Deck. Today I have the privilege to welcome a beautiful topic about biases and prejudice. It's true, we always have in the back of our mind those judgments that comes up, but when we tap into our inner self and the kundalini that is uniting all human beings on this earth, you start feeling this beautiful, magical awareness within yourself that keeps you aligned, which keeps you aligned with your soul purpose, and more than ever, aligned with yourself. So we are all unique, don't forget that. And it's important nowadays to recognize this power that we all have within us. But for that, you need to erase all the beliefs, the biases, the prejudice, the conditionings, and then you will be like a bird, enjoying each and every second of your being. Please welcome Katerina, Katie, and Tazim.
Hi, Tazim. Hi, Katerina.
Hi, Katie.
Okay, so today our topic is about biases and prejudices. With everything that's happening in the world, you know, we're seeing so many different biases and prejudices appearing and coming to the surface for many different reasons. COVID-19 has put us in a situation where we have to really examine and identify what we're feeling. So what are biases and prejudices? Biases and prejudices are something that people don't accept as a difference in another person or in another group of people. So currently we've got this huge biases when it comes to status, when it comes to tribes, when it comes to race, when it comes to religion, the number of wars created due to bias and prejudices within different religions, within different thought patterns. You know, people actually have biases that come up because they think, you know, like a certain group of highly intellectually educated people who look down upon people that are not as educated as them. These are all biases and prejudices that we need to. These layers of religion, tradition, culture, race, we're all the same. And these are just layers of information that we've accumulated. What we really are is the total sum of our experiences, and our experiences are not compiled fully with just data and information. And this is what we need to be aware of.
It's so interesting what you're saying, Tazim, because when you look at yourself and you say, you know, we are the total sum of all our experiences, it also reminds me of how identified we can get with our thoughts and forget that there is something else apart from our thoughts that defines us. And it's so easy for us to get into a belief system, a self-created belief system made up of all our experiences and made up of our conditionings, made up of our ambitions, made up of our biases and prejudices that kind of shape it and make it unique. And the feeling that you get when you look at a small child, which they often use children in advertising to show lack of bias and lack of prejudice, and think, what is that child state? What is that child state that is so enviable in a way? What is that state that makes us feel so free from all these limitations that we have about other people, but also about ourselves? Is that is that freedom to be in the present moment. And how do we tap into that present moment where we're alive and so conscious of what is happening now? Whose story are we part of now? What part of ourselves is being stimulated now? It goes beyond all the thoughts of the past that kept us safe and gave us those conditionings, and the future of the things that we would like to do.
This is what I love about when you, Katie, speak about the now, because I think the main thing, the thing that I do with my practice really is to bring people into the who I am now in the present and find out all of these parts, because it's true, we are made of all of these parts. That's the child part, we sometimes stop growing when we get a big trauma. There's the other part that keeps on growing. There's the other part that is full of conditionings and biases and prejudices and don't even realize until later in life. And so it's so important, and absolutely is a work that we must all do now, especially to really make this world different and new, and finally a world that is fit for everybody, not just the minority, because everywhere there's a minority. And I personally love doing myself and then leading people into doing workshops to do with writing, drawing, body mapping, and body care. Because once you learn just a few things, a few techniques, then all of these things can also help therapy. So if you go into therapy and you also learn, this can be like pre-therapy things, and sometimes they're enough. Sometimes then you also want to go into therapy, like the thing that TAZIM does, for example. And so they all feed from each other, but it's absolutely essential to really get to know oneself. So maybe I can speak a bit more later about this.
Fantastic. What great input. So biases and prejudices are part of our belief system, and they've been handed down for centuries. We don't even know how far back our biases and prejudices come from. And the most physical one is the skin tone. And it's something for me as a child. I never saw color. I did not see color. I did not recognize or relate to another human being because of the color of their skin. I think I was very fortunate because I came with this inbuilt mechanism that did not see people that way. So I was always aghast when, racial stuff surfaced. And then as I grew, I realized that the number of biases and prejudices, the list is so long that I had to take time to examine these for myself. So I started examining and identifying and really questioning where and why are these here. And then little, aha moments would come up, and I would realize, oh, this is where I heard it from. This is what I was told. This is where I read it. Look at the education books today. In Africa, we still have the education books, history books, where, we're told that we were discovered in Africa, that we didn't exist before we were discovered. Our education systems are completely out of date. So when you look at how far back our biases and prejudices come from, and most of them are unwarranted, but they came because there was this need for separation and division, just like they created all the boundaries around countries and the rest of it. So I think when I do the work I do, I really go deep into the whole belief system, which encompasses the biases and prejudices, and get my clients to really look at themselves, to realize, oh my goodness, is this where I'm operating from? Is this who I really am? Because until they realize that, they're unable to change it. They have to be able to see themselves. So I work as being the mirror and the catalyst to make them realize what kind of belief systems and biases and prejudices they're operating from.
So interesting, that work that we have to do on ourselves to see what are our limitations, what are we actually limiting ourselves, and why are we limiting ourselves in this way. Because I think that a lot of us don't realize that there's a lot more to us than perhaps we've been led to believe. It's very easy to go through a whole upbringing, and whether that's in the family or in school or in the culture that we live in, believing that we're part of this group or that society, when actually, I mean, some people, I think probably quite luckily, feel they don't fit into it, feel they don't feel a part of the society that they belong in, that they somehow look at it aghast, like you were saying when you were a child, look at it aghast and feel, well, this is wrong, something's wrong. But if we can, like Katerina was saying, get to know ourselves, we do find that there is a lot more to us that's safe, because sometimes our biases and prejudices make us feel safe. We think that must be right. We don't even know there's that wrong with us. And as you say, you have to unpack it and see it and have a mirror. But that's why I really love nature. And I love having nature, as I say that nature is my therapist, because I feel that when I sit in nature and just have that observational mode where I'm literally just observing, seeing what's happening around me, I feel a whole part of me just falls away and gets completely lulled into this relaxation. I'm just part of creation. I'm part of now. And I think trying to tap into that is where people can sometimes really, really feel that they can't do it. They haven't got time for it, or they're not of the right mindset. But I believe that we all have that connection, that possibility for connection. And it's whether we can tap into it or not that's going to give us the strength to face ourselves.
I find it's really, really important to look inside. It's just that how do you look inside? So definitely one way is to use the nature, the mother nature, the teacher, and the other one definitely doing therapy is extremely useful. I found for people who maybe can't access nature that much, or maybe not yet in the process of doing therapy, maybe there's something in between they can start doing, which is something called free flow writing. So in The Artist Way, which is a very well-known book, Julia Cameron suggests writing 3 morning pages each day as a mean of retrieving creativity. Because creativity is probably, Katie, what you were talking about, is that pure essence of who we are beyond biases and prejudices. And there is no right or wrong way of doing the morning pages. What you need to do, you just need to wake up a bit earlier in the morning, in that twilight zone where your unconscious is on the rising and you're not fully awake, you're not engaged in your logical mind of what am I going to do today, and etc., etc. So in that relaxed state, then you start writing, and literally you just put the pen down on the paper and you don't know what you're going to write about. You might write about your dreams, you might write about a conversation you had the evening before, or just anything, or even an imaginary thing that comes. And it sounds kind of, what is that it? But if you start doing it and you do it for a number of months, you will realize that every day you get all of this stuff out, which is actually in between you and yourself. And you find that there is the other self there looking at all of this stuff, but normally it's so entangled in it that you identify with that. And with that is that part of us that is really biased. But once you start finding that other part, which is looking, which is witnessing, it's almost like you become the car and the driver and the person who's sitting behind, kind of looking at the whole thing. Whether before you didn't even know, you just thought you were the car, but you're not. You are everything. You're the car, the driver, and the passenger. And when you really get to become the passenger, then hey, not only you tell the driver where to go, not only you've got it all under control, but also then you can enjoy the journey as well. So for me, the writing is that kind of it gives that kind of outcome. And then of course there's there's more techniques, there's many more creative techniques, but I think today we've only got a few minutes, so maybe I can talk about the other ones another day.
Fantastic. What a great way to kind of empty out. I've read the book, The Artist's Way, and it also opens up creativity. So when it comes to our subconscious mind and the different parts that we are, and we take this to another level, if we bring in how many different identities we have, you know, we have so many different archetypes inside, plus all our conditioning that's stored in our subconscious mind. And then we, you know, we consider past lives and think about all the storage of past lives. We really, in this little head of ours, and in the smaller part of our minds, because our mind is just, we're using 78% of the gray matter. It's, you know, it's literally like a pea. And within this, there's so much that needs to be stripped and that needs to be examined. And therefore, once people start to understand that we are not what we think we are not what we've been told we are, we're way beyond that. We're a particle of God, a soul particle, a particle of consciousness, a particle of nature, whatever we want to call ourselves. And within this particle, our responsibility is that we must examine and we must identify those parts that limit us, that do not let us function at an equal level with our fellow human beings, with nature, with all that is so beautiful. And if we don't examine that, we cannot change it. So once we understand this, you know, it goes, you know, aha, oh, I'm just like everyone else. Yes, we're like everyone else, even though we have our individual unique signature with our name, because we've been given one, and the responsibility that we need to question that. So in therapy, when I provide, I don't do 3-4 sessions, I do a whole process. And I say to people, 3-4 sessions are only going to scrape the top surface. So if you really want to do this, you have to dive in and you have to be committed and you have to be ready to participate and you have to be ready to open up those cages that have stored so much so that you can let out all the gremlins and then be at a different place in your life.
And you're right, Tazim, because if you don't open up, you will never know the greatness and the magnitude and the magnificence of your real life, what you've come for, and you will never step up and step out, and you'll miss out on the best possible life, the one that sometimes people can't even imagine for themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's the most beautiful thing that you said about this need to find this small part of ourself, which is that tiny part which is connected to everybody else, which is that one drop of consciousness that can join with that collective consciousness. And I believe that we really are at that point now. We couldn't, before this age that we're living in, have done this. But now we should take courage that there are a lot of people on this journey, and we're moving into an age where it's all going to come together for those people who want to connect with each other and who want to connect to their deeper, higher selves, that part of themselves which is really ready to let go, really ready to go to a new level.
And to close up, really think about how we've met. We've met because of the connection, the three of us, because of one person who got to meet each one of us. And look how we've connected, and it's such a deep level, and it's such an enlivening experience. When we haven't physically met, we haven't, you know, and it doesn't matter, because on the screen we're able to connect because we have similar ways to think and similar ideas about life and similar understanding that life can be different. So it's so beautiful.
Very, very beautiful.
So on that note, we can wind up and say thank you very much to the audience, and appreciate you watching us, and trust that what we've discussed will give you some depth into yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tazim, Katerina, and Katie, for this amazing topic. I do believe that we all have an amazing garden within us to tap into without questioning whether it's true or not true, it's nice or not nice, or any prejudice we may have within us. It is something universal. It is something that unites all of us and resource all of us. So I'm sure you enjoyed. Stay tuned for a live topics, question and answer from July on the platform. And meanwhile, stay safe. Bye-bye.